Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer faces a very big transfer battle ahead of this summer. He may well have his top targets, Declan Rice, Jadon Sancho, Varane, but on every single one of those transfers, whether they leave their club, and some of them are very likely to leave their club, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is facing a real battle to bring those players to Manchester United because other rival clubs want them. Not only that, we can look at things like what Fabrizio Romano has said tonight about Babakar Samari going to Leicester for £20 million. It's no longer an excuse for Manchester United to sit there and hide behind Glazonomics of not buying players because of value in the market when Leicester can go and buy a CDM when they don't even bloody need one for £20 million and Manchester United seem unable to do it. So lots to get into on the show. Sorry I was a little bit late. I was sorting a few things out, but sorry for being a little bit late. Also just want to say before we get into the show, of course, as you can see, 40% off with Boohoo Man. They are sponsoring our show tonight. As you all know by now, Boohoo Man have entered the activewear market in a big way. That is why they've got me to promote their brand new active collection today. Personally, I can see why they chose me to promote this line. I'm in peak physical condition with absolutely no back pain at all for the last few hours. Anyway, seriously though, the new active range is great. And if you want something different and very reasonably priced to wear to the gym, or Power League, or even on the golf course, then head over to Boohoo Man now and check out what they have to offer. As always, you can take advantage of the amazing 40% discount that they have given the United Stand viewers by clicking the link in the description and using the code United Stand at checkout. Thank you very much to Boohoo Man for sponsoring the channel. We really appreciate it. And let's get on with the show. And yes, I am wearing some of the Boohoo Man range. And as you can see, you know, I think sometimes I wear hoodies and it's quite baggy and everything and it doesn't show what a physical specimen I actually am. I didn't say it was a good physical specimen, but yeah, I like this. 40% off. Links in the video description. United Stand is the code. Right, yeah, so we're going to do a Q&A tonight as well. That's very important. We're going to do a Q&A and I want to get into that because I think the Q&As are so important because really we get different topics that we may not have discussed on the show. So I'm looking forward to that. But I want to start off with the United's transfer battle. And it is a transfer battle. Now, I said I was going to speak to somebody about Declan Rice. I did speak to that person about Declan Rice. So we'll start off with Declan Rice. But I can also tell you that in relation to Jadon Sancho, there is a new update in the last couple of hours from a credible source. And in relation to Varane, there is a new update on him as well. So 3 players where I can say safely, Rice, Sancho, Varane, no credible outlet is going to rule United out of being interested in those players at this moment in time. So you can go and bank that. Doesn't mean we're signing all 3. Doesn't mean we'll get any of them, as we'll talk now. But United, definitely, if you speak to anybody credible, will say, yeah, they like Varane, yeah, they like Rice, yeah, they like Sancho. So look, it's not a bad start. The problem they face with all 3 players is that it's not a clear race for all 3 players. There is competition for every one of those players. And as we know, when United have got competition, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wakes up in the middle of the night with the sweats thinking, Carricky, I'm going to be stuck with Fred. What am I going to do, Carricky? And Carricky just turns his phone off, which is a very good idea in the middle of the night. But no, I think that it's going to be very, very difficult. Now, on Declan Rice, the situation I keep saying to people and they don't like it is that he wants to go to Chelsea. Chelsea is the club he wants to go to. Now, whether Chelsea are interested or not, argue amongst yourselves. But he wants to go to Chelsea because he's a Chelsea fan. His best mate, Mason Mount's there. He's a London boy. His family, I think, are Chelsea season ticket holders. This is like Ronaldo wanting to go to Real Madrid. This is like you wanting to go and play for your dream club. If you're playing for West Ham and you're a Manchester United fan like a lot of you are, and Liverpool desperately want you, or Chelsea desperately want you, but you want to play for Man United and they say we want you, you're going to go to Man United. And that's the situation with Declan Rice. If Chelsea go for him and they bid for him, then he will go there. If Chelsea don't do that and don't bid, then opens the door to Manchester United, but also Manchester City are definitely interested in Declan Rice as well. 100% categorically. Again, you can speak to a few people about that and they will tell you that yes, Pep is a big admirer of Declan Rice. He needs to replace Fernandinho and he likes Declan Rice. And you know what? On a level, in relation to Declan Rice, who I like as a player, and I like him as a player, I was a bit dubious a year ago, but I really do like him. I've got to be honest, as a football purist, which I like to think I am, taking away the absolute obsession I have with Manchester United and looking at it as a football purist, I tell you what, I'd like to see what Pep Guardiola would do with Declan Rice. I really would like if Pep Guardiola sees Declan Rice as a midfielder for him. I mean, can you imagine what he could do for him? So I've got to say, on that level, it would be quite interesting. I think it'd be bad for football. I think if you add Declan Rice into that Man City side, it's only going to get better. So I don't want it to happen. And of course, I'm a big fan of him. I would love him at Manchester United. As I've said before, I think if Chelsea aren't in for him, if Chelsea are in for him, he'll go there. If Chelsea aren't in for him and it's a battle between Man United and Man City, I would say come to United, because you will be our midfielder for the next 10 years. You will probably be our captain in very, very little period of time, because he's only in his early 20s. You could literally walk the shoes of people like Roy Keane if you wanted to. And I'm not saying he'd be as good as that, but the platform is there. And you would be adored by the best fans in the world. And you will be at one of the biggest clubs in the world. And you could be the spark that takes this club to the level it's not been for a very long time. So, they've got to be big ticks in the box of a footballer. But I think we will struggle if Chelsea enter the market. And I've got to say, will Manchester United enter the market for Declan Rice? If we spend £80 million on Jadon Sancho, I was speaking to someone the other day and they said, well, if you spend £80 million on Jadon Sancho, why are you talking about Varane? Why are you talking about Declan Rice? Do you really think that football club is going to spend £150 million on two players? Not going to happen. So look, I can't see Declan Rice at United as much as I would love him to. But if we want to go for him, you face a big battle there. Mark, why can't we play Tuanzebe as a CDM for the rest of the season? He played there for the under-23s for us, better than McFred and taller than Donny. Mate, he won't even pick Tuanzebe at centre-back, so, Ramadan, welcome to the United Stand Members Club. Thank you very much. And media, United interested in Rice, Varane and Sancho. At the end of the summer, Sancho to Liverpool, Rice to City, Varane to Chelsea. United get Sarr, White and Majinja Longstaff. It's scary but realistic, says DK. Well, that's basically the essence of this show tonight. It's to say that don't not think that we won't be interested in players, but don't think that we'll actually get them, because as we know, I personally think, and this is only a prediction, I personally think we'll get Jadon Sancho and end up with a load of shit in the midfield and at centre-back. That's what I think will happen. And I think a lot of you will swallow that and go, yeah, but we've got Sancho. Personally for me, and I think other people as well, I like Sancho. He's very welcome to come to this club. I think he'll make us a better attack. But he ain't going to solve the midfield problems, and he ain't going to solve the problems at centre-back. And that, to me, is how you build a team. I mean, we hear it all the time. When you build a team, you build from the back. I don't necessarily agree with that, but you've got to build a spine. Jadon Sancho's not a spine. He's not a spine player. Your spine is your goalkeeper, your centre-backs, your centre midfielder, your number 10 and your striker. That is, so Sancho's not even part of the old traditional spine that you need to be a good side. To neglect the spine is to fall away. And that's what will happen if we don't buy the players that we need to get. So Declan Rice, I wouldn't be very confident about him. United admire him. United are monitoring, but I wouldn't be very confident about that. Can you imagine the day when someone says, God, I'd love to see what Ollie can do with a player like Declan Rice? Seems way off, says Nick P. Well, I've got to be fair to Ollie. Look at what Ollie's done with, Greenwood at the start of the season. That was a real battle. He managed that really well. Pogba at Christmas, that was a bloody nightmare. He's managed that really well. I think he could get a good player out of Declan. Well, I think Declan Rice is already a good player. But, on the flip side, look at what he's done with McFred. Fred's been called up for the Brazilian national team. No passport check, straight into the squad. No messing about. So, look, fair play to Fred. I don't think Fred's as bad as people think he is. I just don't think he's good enough to play in that. Look, you've got to be fair to Fred as you've got to be fair to McTominay. McTominay, he ain't no CDM. He's a box-to-box player. Fred, I don't think he's a CDM either. So, Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about Jadon Sancho actually next, because Christian Falk, we've got some fresh news here. Christian Falk, who is the German correspondent, who he seems to be unfashionable at the moment. I don't know why. He seems to be somebody who gets a lot of stick on social media. But I will always be fair in relation to journalists. I don't massively like Samuel Luckhurst at Manchester Evening News. I think he comes across as very arrogant, very snidey, very dismissive. The evidence is out there about that. But one thing I will always say, in fairness to him, is he's definitely got an ear in at United. And when he said that United were talking to Pochettino, I wouldn't have said that if I wouldn't have backed that if I didn't think, well, I know he gets info from the club. So in relation to Christian Falk, I wouldn't be too dismissive about him in relation to German stories, because this is the guy who said Dortmund was going to go to Haaland. A lot of people thought it was bollocks. This is the guy who said that Bellingham was going to Dortmund, and loads of people thought that was bollocks, and it happened. He was also a year ago saying that Bayern wanted Upamecano, and lo and behold, a year later he goes to Bayern. So he's very good on German stuff, and what he's saying. And he's also very good on Bayern Munich stuff. He's even better than Dortmund, but he's very good on German stuff. And what Christian Falk is saying is that Bayern Munich are not interested in Jadon Sancho. Remember last week there was talk about Sancho to Bayern. We were never really bothered about it anyway, but it was mentioned. And what he's saying is that Bayern Munich are not in for Jadon Sancho. It's Manchester United and Liverpool, although neither club have expressed any interest in putting a bid in yet. However, it's not expected that the German clubs will, but Dortmund will entertain any bids until the Bundesliga is over. And obviously the Bundesliga is not over yet. So Manchester United versus Liverpool on that one. Declan Rice, Man City, Chelsea, Man City. Even if United enter the race, they're going to have to beat those two clubs. Declan Rice, it's looking like Manchester United versus Liverpool, which was Manchester United versus Liverpool last night, which absolutely emphasises how disappointing it was that the players didn't turn up last night and beat Liverpool, because if we're in a direct race for Liverpool with Sancho, I still think United can win that race because of the work we did last year. But on the other hand, Dortmund's connection with Klopp is very good. Liverpool now look like they're going to get Champions League football. I'll guarantee you this: if it was a straight right fight between Sancho between Liverpool and Man United, and Liverpool were in the Europa League, we would win that race. If Liverpool are in the Champions League, it levels it up a little bit, and you look at last night and you go, that was a bit of a shame. So we'll see what happens with that. Also, I did see something in the Manchester Evening News that there's a bit of a bad relationship between Sancho's agent and Manchester United, and I don't know whether this will have any impact, but it was basically saying that Sancho's agent feels that the club, Manchester United, are trying to drive a wedge between the agent and Sancho, which is weird, and you don't want to be hearing stuff like that when you're trying to close a deal down. You don't want the agent of the player having a bad relationship with the club before he's even signed him. So look, let's see what happens with Sancho. I think it looks the most likely signing that United want to do. Doesn't mean it will happen though. If we fail to land a deal on Declan Rice, who is our next realistic CDM to take us to the next level, says Fahim. Well, I don't know whether it takes us to the next level, but we're definitely being linked in with this Aaron Barry player at Getafe, who I know next to nothing about. Those three will cost around 150 million, and the budget will be maximum 100, says Akshay. Do you think United can gather a 50 million from transfers out, says Akshay? Well, I disagree with you for a start, Akshay. I think that I think that with regards to Sancho, probably 80 million, Declan Rice 70 million, that's 150, and Varane 50 million, so it's 200 million for those three players. I don't think it's anything less. What's your opinion on Witsel, says Logan? I think he's a good player. I just don't think he's anybody that United would look at, to be honest with you, now. But I think it's really important before we wander into the Q&A and just bring you up to date with what's going on. I do think it's really important to emphasise that Manchester United will have money to spend this summer. But I said it this morning and I'll keep saying it. Just because we've got money to spend doesn't mean we will buy the players that we want. We might have the money to buy a Rice, a Varane, a Sancho, but it doesn't mean we'll get them, because if there's competition, that's where a new level of incompetence comes in for United. We've got the money, but we haven't got the brains. We're not the Pet Shop Boys. I've got the brains, you've got the looks. Let's make lots of money. No, we haven't got the brains, we haven't got the looks, but we have probably got the money. So I think it's going to be a very interesting summer, because United, we could easily lose races to get players. I mean, Upamecano, Alaba, were we interested in them? We didn't get anywhere near it, did we? And we might end up paying over the odds, as somebody just said there. Well, just on the CDM thing, before I move on to Varane, on the CDM thing, Samari is a player. I think he's going to do very well at Leicester. Keep your eye on him. He's going to go for 20 million. That's a player we could have looked at. Zakaria is a player we could look at. I don't know whether we're going to. I don't think we've ever really seriously been linked. Basuma is another player we could look at from Brighton, Premier League proven, and obviously Declan Rice. So there's 3 or 4 there without there's a lad that Chelsea are looking at, and I can't remember his bloody name. Does he play for Monaco? There's a midfielder that Chelsea are looking at that they might go for instead of Declan Rice, and I can't remember the life of me what his name is, but he's quite good. Siddharth says, why can't we get Ronaldo if he wants to come? He can play left wing, Rashford right wing, Cavani striker, millions of pounds to spare for Ndidi if Rice wants to go to Chelsea, says Siddharth. We'll never get Ndidi from Leicester, and you can't play. I don't think you've been watching Ronaldo a lot if you think he can still play on the wing. Rennie Mullenstein urges Manchester United to replace Paul Pogba with Jack Grealish. Is any Man United player new contract? Says Man United News Now. You know what? I've got to say, I know that Rennie Mullenstein was an ex-Manchester United assistant coach, and I know Lee Sharp played for Manchester United, and Paul Ince did, and Paul Parker did, and Gary Neville did, and Paul Scholes did, and Gary, all these players and coaches of United, right? But I can't talk to you about that. That can't be a story. That can't be something we talk about. Oh, Paul Scholes says go and get Fofana. Yay. Rennie Mullenstein says go and get Jack Grealish. Yay. Erin Matthews says let's go and buy Basuma. That's not really something to discuss, is it? Because it's just somebody's opinion. The chances of us signing Grealish are minimal, to be honest with you. Absolutely minimal. Because he's a fantastic player who's just signed a new contract, and Villa will want 70, 80 million quid. So it's not going to happen. We haven't got... No, it won't happen. I like Grealish, I really do, and I'd like him at United, but it's not going to happen. Hi, Mark. Do you think Bruno will leave if we don't win Europa and don't win anything next season, says Joseph Lewis? I think if you tolerate this, then your children will be next. And if we carry on like this, then Bruno will be next out the door, yes. In the next 18 months, I think the pressure... will come in from bigger clubs or more successful clubs to get Bruno, because you've got to be successful. And I think one thing that's very obvious with Bruno is he's a winner and he wants to win. And I don't think that he will sit around for 3 or 4 years at a club that's not doing well. I'd be very surprised if Pogba does, but I certainly don't think Bruno will. Do you think Bruno's the sort of player that would just say, yeah, I'll sign a new contract for the money? I think he wants to win things. I think he's very aware of his career. And that's why we've taken to him so much. The third player, obviously, Varane. We've spoken about the competition for Declan Rice, and we've spoken about the competition for Sancho. The competition for Varane is apparently, again, Liverpool and Chelsea. So, again, even if you can negotiate with Real Madrid, you're going to have Chelsea and Liverpool going in for him as well. So, very, very hard summer for Manchester United ahead of us. And even if we do have the money, and some people think we don't, but even if we do have the money, we're still going to be competing against other clubs. And apparently Chelsea have got £150 million to spend this summer. I mean, that doesn't sound massive, but think about what they did last summer. They bought so many players last summer, and they have a good squad already, and they're going to spend another 150 million. Apparently they want to bring in a top striker. They're talking about Lukaku. I mean, you can imagine him coming back and banging the goals in. And you can, in a worst case scenario, we have a crap summer transfer window. We go into next season with the same centre-back pairing and the same CDMs, and maybe we have got rid of De Gea and it's Henderson in goal, and Lukaku's at Chelsea and he starts scoring goals, and United are in 6th or 7th, and suddenly, oh look, Ollie got rid of Lukaku, oh look at him, he's still got McFred. You can see how in a worst case scenario this could go tits up for Ollie. I really do think that next season is not as clear cut as... he totally deserves the contract. I think he's done a really, really good job. But do I sit here now going, oh, he's going to be fine, he's going to be comfortable in the job for the next 2 years? I don't. I think next season could go really, really wrong really, really quickly. And that is why it's so important that he gets the right players in, because Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not Jurgen Klopp. He's not Pep Guardiola. He's not Ancelotti. He's not Tuchel. He's not at that level yet because he's a work in progress. So if you don't give him the better players, he's going to struggle. And he's got to have the better players next season. Hi, Mark. What was the first game you went to at Old Trafford and how old were you? Says Jan Banjovi. I've answered this so many times. I never know whether it's people trying to catch me out or be an arsehole, but I will go on the Friday night vibe that it's a nice question. 1989 FA Cup quarter-final at Old Trafford. Manchester United versus Nottingham Forest. Obviously, I'm from Nottingham. I was only a young lad, and I nearly said I begged, steal and borrowed. I didn't steal and I didn't borrow. I begged to go up there for my birthday, which was around the FA Cup quarter-final. So, very different Old Trafford it was as well. And unfortunately, they lost. Do you think Scott is a box-to-box player? He doesn't have the creativity to play against the low block when there isn't the space for him to run into, says Lord. I mean, look, on McTominay, we're sort of moving into a Q&A, even though I've got a couple of things I still want to talk about. I'll be generous with McTominay because I think in the past I've probably been a quite harsh on him. I don't really want to be harsh on any United player without offering hope, because I think that if you do that, you wander into this toxic world that I've been in the past. I've been toxic in the past. I put my hands up, you know. I've given up on players like Fellaini. I've just said the total shit, get rid of him. And it's not that I wasn't wrong. I just don't really want to go into that world at the moment because I think this is a pivotal summer. I think we've done well to get to second and we've got a cup final coming up in 2 weeks. So I don't really want to sit here and go, that player's absolute shit, get them out of the club. And I don't think there's any player that I feel like that about. I don't think McFred are good enough. I don't think Lindelof is good enough. And there are other players that I've got question marks about, but I don't dislike any of the players and I don't not want them to turn it around. But I did see somebody say today, and it got me thinking, they were like, look, Scott McTominay loves the club, he's really hard working, but if he was playing in the Championship, do you think people would be buying him for the Premier League? And then they went on to say, maybe somebody would. Maybe a Newcastle would pick him up and think, you know, he's got that quality to maybe play at this level, but he'd never be playing for a top 10 club. And I think that's it with McTominay. Is he a box-to-box player? Yes. Is he a holding midfielder player? No. But even as a box-to-box player, is he a box-to-box player of the quality of some of these top 10 quality box-to-box players? And I don't think he is. I don't actually think he's anywhere near the level we get told he is. But I'm willing to give him a chance in a box-to-box role, which he's not been given this season. And therefore, I would still say, valuable member of the squad, stick him on the bench, see what happens. And if it doesn't work out, you move him on. But he shouldn't be touching the first team, in my opinion. Not in the way that we're using him at the moment. Liverpool going for Konate, so don't think they'll go for Varane, says Vinit. Well, that's a good point on Varane. Yeah, and hopefully that would happen. But apparently Manchester Evening News were talking about Liverpool. Do you think we would be able to negotiate with Madrid given Perez's poor feelings about the club that left the Super League, says Diego? Well, it's a good point. I think Real Madrid is all... it's funny that Real Madrid and Spurs have a very good relationship because Manchester United don't have a good relationship with Spurs or Real Madrid. They're very traditionally very hard clubs for us to deal with. And I don't think Real Madrid would want to do any business with us. Having said that, they're not it's not like we're knocking on Real Madrid's door and saying we'd quite like Varane. I know he's got 3 years on his contract. Let's have a chat. This is Varane saying I'm not signing a new contract and Real Madrid having to, do what they can in a position of weakness. So, maybe that could help us. Don't forget, we went for Longstaff, so we could very well have bought McTominay, says Vinit. I mean, God, you make a good point there, Vinit. We really wanted to buy that Sean Longstaff. Was it 3 years ago? Look at him. Look at what a mistake that would have been. And there are Scott McTominay vibes to Sean Longstaff. There are similarities. I watched Longstaff when we were looking at him a few times. And he, there's probably videos of me saying it, and I'll look a right prat now, but I did watch him, and I was trying to, and I sort of said, look, he's almost a cross between Gerrard and Lampard. But what I meant, I said Van der Beek's got Lampard vibes, and I had Chelsea fans saying, oh, he thinks Van der Beek's better than Lampard. You can't be a hypocrite. You can't say, what's that player like? And then you look at them and go, oh, you can see that in them. Doesn't mean that. It just means they've got similar, maybe Poundland versions, you know what I mean? But it's worried that. Relapse for the first time this week, which really fucked my mental health. Keep up all the good work, Mark. People like me need it. Thanks, says Luke82. Stay strong, Luke. And very good that you are open to the fact that, you have those issues and that you need to talk about them, which, I said on Twitter, it is mental health week this week, actually. So, I'm glad that you've brought that to my attention. I said this week that, I think for the last 2 months, I relapsed. And I don't consider myself to be somebody that suffers with mental health in a major way, but I'm fully aware of my moods. And I think that for 2 months, the people around me who matter will have realised this. I think it's just tiredness and everything. And, when you're tired, you can't be asked to make the effort that I've not been feeling great, but I've not been telling people about it. And then, you sort of fall deeper into it. So, yeah, it's very, very important to talk. Very important to talk. So big up you, Luke. McTominay looks like a C-Tech Lingard from the past couple of years. Runs around a lot and provides a supposed moral boost with even less ability, says Brandon. Look, the thing is, I don't think Scott's an unambitious lad. I don't think he's an unconfident lad. And I just think he's struggling to be at the level that he needs to be at. So the thing that makes me laugh is that we almost live in a world where people think that there's a button is going to switch, and then suddenly that McFred might be Kante and Pogba from the French squad. They might just suddenly switch. But if that was the case, I'd be playing up front for Manchester United and you'd be playing up front with me or on the wing. The cold, harsh fact that football has told us throughout our whole lives is that Messi and Ronaldo are the two best players in the world week in, week out, because they're on a different level. It's not like 1 week Ronaldo scores a hat-trick and then he's a bag of shit. There are levels to this game. There literally are levels. And the best players are at the top. The Neymars, the Ronaldos, the Messis. And a lot of us just aren't good enough. And I think the problem you've got with McTominay and Fred, and Lindelof as a centre-back as well, is that if you want to win a title, they just ain't that level. And they're not going to be at that level. And it's not wrong to say it, because there's thousands of players that would never be at that level. But the thing that they can never moan about is that they've been given an opportunity. Mark, what do you think of Birmingham CDM Barnes? And if you rate him, I don't know who he is, Hamish, to be honest with you. I don't know. Just talking about Birmingham, actually, I do want to get into the Q&A, but very, very quickly, Tom Heaton of Aston Villa has apparently turned down a new deal at Aston Villa and will be coming to Manchester United as our backup goalkeeper. Now, this obviously feeds into something I really don't want to talk about tonight, which is that if Heaton's coming in and Romero's going, we're clearly going to be moving on David De Gea this summer, which is devastating. It really is, but I would prepare for it. I really would prepare for it, because that's the noise coming out. And look, you look at last night and you wonder why. There must be something. I look at De Gea when he's on the bench and he's chatting away with Harry Maguire last night, and he's chatting away having a laugh with Juan Mata, and you think, well, you see him with Bruno, he gets on with him. You see him with Pogba, he gets on with him. He's good mates with Lindelof. And you just wonder, where is it? Because David De Gea is not giving anything off that he wants to leave. David De Gea would probably go to Real Madrid, but they're not looking for a goalkeeper. So he's being forced out, David De Gea. Where is it coming from? Because it doesn't come across that it's a player issue. It doesn't come across that it's a Solskjaer issue. Is it just simply a business decision? And this is scary. Is it a business decision that we need to force De Gea out the club because his wages are too much? And if that's the truth, my God, the problems at this football club couldn't be any worse. Imagine we are removing David De Gea for no other reason that his wages are too big. Another business decision, because I don't detect any animosity between David De Gea and any player, or David De Gea and the manager. So this cannot be a footballing decision. This is a business decision if this is going to happen. This is, yes, you're a very good goalkeeper, but we need to get you out because of your wages, which is weird. Well, it might not be that, but it could well be that, because I tell you what, it's not just last night. Henderson against, was it Burnley, running off his line like all over the place. He has not settled into that shirt at all. He looks like he's trying too hard. He's making basic errors. AC Milan as well. Somebody just said it in the chat there. And yet David De Gea, I think he's had a very good season. And against Roma, he was world class. So it just doesn't. It worries me a lot. It worries me a lot, because when you go back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago about, imagine we go into next season after a bad summer. Chelsea are better. Liverpool are better. Man City are better. Chelsea bring Lukaku in, who starts banging in goals. United are down, nowhere near the top four. Ollie out. Oh, and look what he did with De Gea. He's a bloody idiot. It can go fast very wrong. If I was Solskjaer, I would just think very hard about my public perception over the next 6 months, because at the moment it's very high, and it's going to be very high when we win the Europa League, hopefully. But that, even the Europa League, look, Mourinho finished second with 81 points. We can only get 76. So Mourinho's second place will be better than Ollie's second place. And some people will say, well, is that progress? Mourinho also won a Europa League. It doesn't mean you can't get the sack. So I think that De Gea thing is really dangerous, but and it's worrying. All this Declan Rice talk has led me to order a Chinese. Sweet and sour chicken, egg fried rice and prawn crackers to scoop it all up, says Nick P. Mate, I like it. I do that. That's what I use the prawn crackers for, scooping it all up. My order would be, I like the sweet and sour chicken, I like the egg fried rice, but I'd have a beef chow mein as well, and I'd have half and half. But yes, I like that, Nick P. I like that tactic. Scoop it up. Good tactics. Maybe it's a business decision to try and part exchange in the Varane deal, says Supermac TV. Yeah, but I don't think Real Madrid would want David De Gea. I don't think they would want David De Gea. To be honest with you. But look, let's get into the Q&A because that's what I want to talk about. We've gone through all the latest news, of course. I just would say as well, Romano did tweet this afternoon about Samari going to Leicester for 20 million. I mean, if we don't end up bringing in a good CDM, I would question why. Because if Samari is a player that I think he's going to be at Leicester and he was available for 20 million, it's another midfielder like Tielemans that we've not got hold of. I mean, look, Tielemans was available for, what did Leicester play? Under 30 million for him? Don't tell me that Tielemans wouldn't be our best midfielder if we had him. He's miles ahead of McTominay and Fred. So you can't keep using the excuse about money when there are very good value deals to be done. Right, let's do the question. If that's the case with De Gea, okay. Oh, sorry, Jack Lynch says, if that's the case with De Gea about his wages, then why give him high wages in the first place? Because we're a badly run club, Jack. United can make one decision one day and then make another decision the next. It's, we're a badly run club. Sarab says, I'm just being optimistic, but maybe Hendo is playing more than De Gea to get into the first team for England in the Euros. We'll just be sad to see De Gea leave, says Sarab. Well, since when has Man United had anything to do with what goes on for England, really? Mark, are you worried that Dino will start over De Gea in the final? I think he will, because that is what Ollie did last season with Romero, says Enrique. I'll be right honest with you now. If Dean Henderson starts in goal ahead of David De Gea in the final, I'll be really, really disappointed in Ollie. I mean, it's not going to make me be Ollie out, but if things go wrong next season, it won't. I don't think it will take me long to realise he's not the man. And I do think he can be the man, but what I'm saying is, and I do back Ollie, as everybody knows, but if he didn't play De Gea in the final, that would be a real big knock in my confidence in Solskjaer, because it's not logical. It's not. And to me, it would be vindictive, because I don't think Henderson's playing particularly well. And I think that De Gea has. But more importantly, we would not have been in that final if it wasn't for David De Gea. Seriously, if you watch that game back, we lost 3-2. I think with Henderson in goal, he might have let in another 4 goals. That's how good De Gea was. And then we wouldn't have been in the final. So to not pick the guy who put us in the final would be an absolute travesty. I can't see how he doesn't pick De Gea. So I think he will pick De Gea. Because I and I think many other people would go into that final really with a sour taste. And also, the logical thing is to pick De Gea for the reasons we've just said. Imagine he doesn't pick De Gea and then Henderson makes a mistake. There's no point doing that. There's no point in Ollie doing that. If he picks De Gea, no one will moan about it. They'll just be like, that's the right decision. If he picks Henderson and then we lose, it's just not worth doing it. I think De Gea will play, definitely. This could be a tryout for Henderson, and if De Gea keeps outperforming him, we may as well sell Henderson for an inflated price, says Michael Miro. Well, I think it will be De Gea going this summer, unfortunately. Sam Aimson says, is Rice the answer to our defensive midfield problem? I always see him playing in a 2 with Souček. Would Ollie play more expansively, or would he stick with the same tactics, says Sam? Good question, Sam. But how many goals has Souček scored this season? Souček doesn't sit back with Declan Rice. He gets forward a lot. I think when you've... Look, I'm not going to second guess you, but I've watched West Ham a few times this season, and when they play against an Everton or a Fulham, they don't play with a 2. Souček will push up a lot more and Declan Rice will run the midfield on his own. But when they've been playing like Liverpool and Manchester United, yes, Souček basically becomes a second CDM because they're not going to get forward as much. But effectively, Declan Rice is the player that sits and Souček is the player that gets forward more. But of course, when you've not got the ball, that's the whole point. If we had Declan Rice and Paul Pogba was still here, Paul Pogba would have the licence to go forward more. But when we haven't got the ball, he's still got to get back and do his defensive stuff. So, yeah, Declan Rice is definitely the sitter. Would you start Mason Greenwood on the right over Marcus Rashford in the final, says Dougie? I think that's a good question, Dougie. And I think that the honest answer for me is that why do people keep talking about dropping Marcus Rashford? I mean, what was abundantly clear last night is when he's playing on the left, he's a lot more comfortable. So the question is not, would I drop Rashford for Greenwood on the right? The question is, why is Rashford on the right? The question is, Greenwood should play off the right. Who's going to play on the left, Rashford or Pogba? Because you can't drop Greenwood to put Rashford on the right because Greenwood's better on the right. So I would put Rashford on the left and find a way to get Pogba in the midfield because that's the only way we got back into that game yesterday. Henderson should be dropped after his performance against Liverpool, all things being equal. Simple as that, says Rob Bradford. I do think that De Gea will start against Fulham on Tuesday, and I think Henderson will start against Wolves. I've said that for a while because if you think about it, if he plays Henderson against Fulham and then he plays Henderson against Wolves, De Gea plays the final, but he hasn't played in ages. So he's got to give De Gea a game either next Tuesday or the final game of the season. And I think he will give De Gea the game on Tuesday. Also, I think he'll give De Gea the game on Tuesday because there will be some fans in the ground and it's probably De Gea's last game at Old Trafford. So I think De Gea will start against Fulham anyway. And I think he would have done regardless of how well Henderson played last night. DK says, if we are a business, why can't we be about maximising the revenues at the club? I'm an optimistic person, but United makes me depressive. Thoughts, Mark, says DK. Very good question, DK. And I think at the end of the day, DK, I don't want to rock DK, but the point I'm going to make is that, and it's been said many times before, so it's not a breaking news point, is that, yes, we are run by businessmen who actually aren't very good businessmen, because if you speculate to accumulate and you make the club more successful, you make more money. Spending a bit more money on the team will lead to more revenue for you anyway. But the Glazers have never realised that. The biggest example is not actually in relation to buying players. It's in relation to the football club. Imagine if we haven't built or restructured Old Trafford since the Glazers have been here. The last one, I think, was just when they were coming in, but that had already been sorted out by the previous ownership. So nothing's been done in 16 years on Old Trafford. Now, if 10 years ago, when we won the... we didn't, We won the Champions League in 2008. So when we won the league in 2012, if they'd said then, right, we're going to go from 75,000 capacity to 90,000. We're going to build 15,000 on top. How much would it be to build on top of Old Trafford to put another 15,000 seats in? I don't know. I've got no idea. But 100 million, 50 million, I don't know how much it costs. I don't play Football Manager or anything like that. I don't know how much it costs to have an extension built of 15,000 seats. But whatever that cost is, you would get another 15,000 fans in for every game. 90,000 Old Trafford, piece of piss. So the reality is, if you spent that money on putting 15,000 seats in 2012 and it took a couple of years to do it, they'd have made that money back and more by now. But they don't look at things like that. They don't look at speculating to accumulate, because they'd rather just let things rot and take the money out. And the problem with that is that it's not future planning. It's just greedy. You know Scrooge from that film Christmas Carol, or the book. That's what the Glazers act like. They don't want to spend any money on any heating to make their staff happy, because they just want to hoard it all. They don't want to run a business properly. Ollie's not a tactician. His subs are wrong. He could rethink and play Pogba and Van der Beek in the midfield. A manager like Tuchel could, says Devashish. And Ollie said David De Gea is still one of the best goalkeepers in the world. So is it him that wants Henderson to start, or the board? Could be a way to raise his value, says Devin Smith. Well, as I say, Devin, in the absence of knowledge, my theory at the moment is that I don't think Ollie wants De Gea to go. I don't think the players want De Gea to go. I think this is a board decision to free up wages, which is shocking, really. And it could backfire drastically. I worry for Henderson. I fear for Henderson, because I think that he's making mistakes in empty stadiums. What happens when he starts playing in front of thousands? And I know he did it for Sheffield United, but it's a very different situation, and the pressure there, if De Gea goes, will be huge, because a lot of people will be thinking, did United make the right decision? And confidence is everything for a goalkeeper. So I don't think the way this is panning out has been great. But whatever happens, if Henderson stays and De Gea goes, we've got to get behind Dean Henderson. You have to, because that's what we're going to be left with. Off-topic question, but who was United's best utility player? O'Shea, Fletcher, Fortune, Park, or someone else? I think as a utility player, Glenn, I would say John O'Shea, because he could play centre-back, midfield, right-back, left-back, and that's what you want with a utility player. Who was the most talented player of those? I'd probably say Ji-sung Park. And he could run and run and run. They are businessmen with multiple businesses. They don't have time to run businesses. They only work on data. They hire people like Woodward to make sure the valuation increases and the cash flow improves, says Vinit. Good point. Well made. Keep chucking your questions in because we're doing the Q&A. Henderson will end up being another Ben Foster, says Michael Kelly. And do you think De Gea is pushing for a move to Spain as him and his partner want to bring their newborn daughter in, says Kenneth? I mean, look, we've lost ourselves in this goalkeeper thing, which I don't really want to discuss because I think I know what's going to happen, and it's very sad. But how can De Gea be pushing for a move to Spain? The Spanish league is on its arse. We know that. That's why Perez is still trying to run a Super League with 3 teams in it. So who's going to pay Man United 50 million and David De Gea 350k a week? There's no La Liga club that's going to do that. So don't start thinking De Gea is pushing for this move, because the only move De Gea would push for, you're right, is Spain. He wouldn't want to go anywhere else. He's happy at Manchester. The only reason he wanted to go was to go back home to Madrid all those years ago. And it didn't happen, and he committed himself, and he's happy here. So David De Gea is not pushing for this move because there's nobody in Spain that can bloody afford it anyway. What do you think Martial's role is in the team next season? Good question, Nick P. Good question, because it's a difficult question. What do you think in the live chat? And if you're not watching live, in the comments, what do you think about Anthony Martial? What do you think about his future at Manchester United? I think I'm going to stick with what I said 2 months ago. I think that, and I would take Kante Javon. A few months ago, I don't think I would have thought about it, but I would take Kante. He'd be miles better than anything we've got. Will you bring back United Stand Discord, Sam? Yes, we will, and we very nearly did bring it back a couple of weeks ago, so we are looking to do that. There's a few changes we're looking to make over the next few weeks, so keep your eyes peeled, actually. There's quite a lot of changes coming for the United Stand. I'll be saying goodbye. No, I'm only joking. Anthony Martial. What did I say 2 months ago about Martial? Look, I'm a big fan of Martial, as everybody knows. He's one of my favourite players. But I'll put my hands up and say he's been very bad. He's been very bad this season, and that's the way I like to watch football. I don't go with agenda in the sense that everyone said you had a bias towards Luke Shaw for stupid reasons, and I don't have a bias. I just think he's a good player. I still think Martial's a good player. It's not about standing by them because they're one of my favourite players. I think he's a very, very talented player. And I think Martial can still be a very talented player for United. But when they're not good, they should get criticised. Luke Shaw, I didn't think played well against Liverpool last night. I think he's arguably player of the year. But it doesn't mean you can't just protect a player because they're one of your favourites. If they underperform, they need to be told. And I thought Luke Shaw underperformed last night. And he will know he did himself. He's a professional athlete. Anthony Martial's underperformed this season big time. Do I think that that's reason to sell him? No. Last year he was our player of the year. So next year he might be player of the year again. But I think what's happened this year is that at the start of the year he was player of the year. You bring Cavani in, and I do empathise with Martial. He'd had a brilliant season. He was number 9. Van Gaal gets sacked. Mourinho changes his shirt before he's even come back and goes with Zlatan, and Martial gets treated like shit. Martial's player of the year. Comes back, Cavani's brought into the club, and he loses his place. I mean, some might say, well, that shows a weakness in Martial's mentality, because if you're good enough, you'll play. Maybe you're onto something there. But what I want to see from Martial is, what does Martial want? And I think that's the most important thing. United will not want to sell Martial. So if Martial wants to stay, the plan is that Martial is part of this squad, he's a valued player of this squad, and he fights for a first team slot. And that's what I want to see happen. If he goes and knocks on the door and says, I want out, then you start looking about what you can do with it. But if Martial wants to stay, he stays. Mark, let's be honest, what is our best midfield currently? We're tired every pairing and it doesn't work, and we need to sign a world-class goalkeeper if De Gea goes, says Yazza. Mark, in addition to adding capacity, would you want to see a fuller campus around Old Trafford for matchday experiences, says Diogo. What's one of them? I don't know what that is, Diogo. What do you think will be the starting lineup first Premier League next season, says Per Eric Klassen. Honestly, Per, I think the starting lineup next season will be Henderson, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire, Shaw, McTominay and Fred, Bruno, Sancho, Rashford, Cavani. I think Sancho will be here. I think De Gea will be gone. I think McFred will be still here. I think Lindelof will still be here. And I'm not convinced on Pogba. I'm not convinced on Pogba's future. I'm sorry. I know people are saying, what about Pogba? But I'm not convinced about Pogba's future at United. I'm not. He's got 1 year left on his contract. And I think people are sleeping on what's going to happen this summer. I'm not saying he's going to go. But I'm not convinced he's signing the new contract everyone thinks he is. And I also think, can United let him go into his final year knowing he's going to go for free? So I don't know why people... Look, I'm glad people are sleeping on Pogba because we don't need the chat. But what I'm saying is, I think something's going to happen with Pogba this summer. And I hope it means that he will be staying at the club long term. But I do worry about what's going to happen with Pogba. I do. McFred next season, I'll be Ali out, says Jamie. And they are businessmen with multiple... Yeah, I've done that one. People ask me a question, I'll give you an honest answer. I think that they will spend all their money on Sancho and there won't be much left. But a good question by Per-Erik Klassen there. I liked that. What do you think our best midfielder is? Says, what do you think our best midfield is? Says Yazza Said. What do you think our best midfield is? You know, I know it's a Q&A, but I do like to throw it back. What do you think our best midfield is? Mark, who other than Ahmed from the youth has best chance of breaking into the starting 11 next year? We've seen a lot of debuts. What about Garner? Says Andrew. Garner's probably the closest, but Garner shouldn't be here next year. Garner's 20. He should be on loan next season at a Premier League club. If he's at United, he'll do a Brandon Williams. He'll barely play. So Garner needs to be on loan next season. But yes, he's definitely an exciting player, probably in a year's time. Who else is coming through? Mengi will be on loan again at Derby, which is good for him. Look, it's not. You know what? It's not always about breaking through into the first team from the youth setup. A loan can be brilliant. Beckham went on loan. You know, a loan is a very important thing. I don't think there's many players that are going to go straight into the youth from the youth setup to the starting team. Greenwood's a generational talent. Brandon Williams, and now he's not being used. So I don't think you can say who's going to be the player that's going to come through. Amad Diallo was a bought player as well. So. Look, Hannibal's fantastic. Shoretire, Alanga, Joe Hugel as a striker, Charlie McNeil in the under-18s as well. There are players, lots and lots of players coming through. And, you know, I'm hopeful of a few others that, you know, maybe we haven't mentioned there as well. So what player would you take from the 99 team for this team and what's your reason behind it? It's David Bowden. The live chat will tell you who that is, David, easily. Going back to that question, what is Manchester United's best midfield? Our best midfield is Matic and Pogba. And that's been proved over Ollie's reign. The first 3 months, it was Matic and Herrera and Pogba as a midfield three. At the end of last season, it was Matic and Pogba. It's Roy Keane, by the way, yeah. Matic and Pogba are our best midfield three. If you look at the first 45 minutes against Leicester, Matic was man of the match. But the problem is, Matic can't play 2 games a week, and he can't barely play 90 minutes. So therefore, that can't be our best pairing because you can't play it. So if we had Matic like he was in the first half against Leicester for 50 games, we'd be fine because he's the best CDM we've got. But he's nowhere near the level you need to be. He's like Mata. Mata and Matic they should be put in a field to be fed apples. You know, like a stallion horse that's won loads of races. But they, you know, you retire them. You put them in a field and you put some female horses in there and they have a good time with some apples. That's what needs to happen to Mata and Matic. Or they can go to Serie A and retire there. But they can't do it. They're brilliant players. Mata and Matic are brilliant players, but they're not good enough anymore. And I know that upsets Ricky. Oh, you're going... But then nobody's questioning the brilliance of Mata and Matic. They've had great careers, but they can't offer it anymore. So our best midfield is Matic and Pogba, in my opinion. But because Matic can't play anymore, you can't say that. So that's the problem, because we haven't got a CDM who can play with Pogba. So therefore, you start playing McTominay and Fred, who are unimaginative but run around a lot. I personally think if you can't play Matic and Pogba, The best midfield performance I've seen over the last year was Sevilla, which was Fred and Pogba. So I think Fred and Pogba is the best that we can put out that could play regularly. But even then, it's flawed, as we know. McTominay and Pogba, I've never seen work. I've never seen them work. It just doesn't seem to work, McTominay and Pogba, for some reason. Siddharth, welcome to the Members Club. And do you think that Cavani would have extended without knowing that Pogba was staying? He's ambitious like Bruno. Maybe he was promised that Sancho would be providing the service next season, says in a giant TV. I would doubt that Cavani has signed because Pogba's going to sign a new contract, to be honest with you. Glazers fighting back using fake accounts. Are you worried, says Shepherd? Well, I said it this morning and people don't want to listen to it. But if you think we're not being targeted as a fan base by in social media wars, you're very naive. What are our expectations this season if we sign Sancho, Varane and Rice, says Declan Rice? Well, we're not going to sign those three players. But if we did add Sancho, Varane and Rice, you're adding a centre-back, a CDM and a right winger. And we've already finished second. I would expect a title race. I wouldn't say we'd win the title, but I would expect a title race, definitely, yeah. But I'm not expecting anywhere near those three players, so, I can say that now. Would you support a Lingard swap for Sancho? Yes, but I don't think that will ever happen, to be honest with you. Please smash a like on the video anyway, by the way. Really enjoyed the show tonight. And remember, Boohoo Man, I'm wearing it tonight. Boohoo Man Active Range. You can get 40% off and you can look like me if you want. No, seriously, really good range that Boohoo Man have released. If you're into your gym or fitness or power league or whatever, check it out. Links in the video description. 40% off. They've got some really good t-shirts and stuff, which I haven't bothered to wear because it's still a little bit chilly. For May in the UK, it's really cold. Anyway, look, we're back in the morning with the morning show. We've got 8 o'clock show tomorrow night as usual. Make sure you subscribe and smash a like on the video. Of course, Boohoo Man, link in the video description. No match for United this weekend either. So I'm doing a watch along for the FA Cup final on That's Football tomorrow night at 5 o'clock as well if you want to join me for that. But no match for United this weekend. We play all these games and then we don't play at the weekend. Odd scheduling, but there you go. We're playing Tuesday against Fulham, which is our next game. So thanks everyone for watching. I hope you stay safe and stay well. If you've not checked out my video about Goldbridge Reacts, it's my best Goldbridge Reacts I've ever done. You can get to it through the community page or just check my Twitter feed at Mark Goldbridge. But it's a good one. Do give it a watch. Thanks for watching. Fantastic video. I always love the Friday, Saturday night show because it's a bit interactive. We'll do it again tomorrow night. Speak to you in a bit.